Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья. Меня зовут Антон Iakhontov, Патрик Кейдж. Рядом со мной находится директор группы музыкальных исследований Франсуа Bonnet. Предлагаю считать второй проходящий в России фестиваль ACOUSMONIUM открытым. Я думаю, что в нашей вступительной речи мы не будем слишком много рассказывать о том, что это такое и зачем, почему. Во-первых, потому что у нас будет великолепный коммуникатор и интеллектуал, который очень глубоко именно в этой теме очень красноречив в том, как он это исполняет. Я говорю о Даниэле Терuggi, чья речь будет немного позже. Поэтому сейчас я передам слово Франсуа.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming. This is an important moment for us because it's the first time the ACOUSMONIUM reached Russia, and I think it may be the most distant destination so far that we accomplished with that. I won't be long. I just want to thank people who made this possible. And Anton will introduce you later to the head of French Institute. But Alain, Hélou and Ioulia Starovoitova helped us a great deal to make this happen because, as you can see, it's lots of speakers and lots of equipment to travel. I'd like to thank as well Daniel Teruggi, who were former head of GRM and were here last year, and he will be here. He will be here in a few minutes during a presentation because he's the one who makes this connection with Anton. So thank you. And of course, I'd like to thank my partner in crime at GRM, Philippe Dao, Emmanuel Richier, and Jules Négrier. We are coming, four of us, to set up the installation, and we will be here the whole week for the concert, for the workshops, and I hope you will appreciate the experience of this acousmatic music with the original, let's say, ACOUSMONIUM.
And then I think we all should say the good words to my long-time assistant, which is Anastasia Blur, or artistic name Anastasia Blur. So without her help, nothing would ever help. So all the communication and bureaucratic and paperwork is on her. It's a very young festival, and I'm really happy that at first François Bonnet and then Daniel and then you, the head of GRM, really support and willing to collaborate. I think it's really great, and then the idea of the loudspeakers orchestra of the ACOUSMONIUM will spread, and it's just hopefully just the beginning. So, and let's invite on stage now our guardian Holy Spirit from Institut Français. So this is Alain, Hélou, director, and then Ioulia Starovoitova, curator of the cultural programs of Institut Français de Saint-Pétersbourg.
Bonsoir, donc je vais dire un petit mot en français. Tout d'abord, je suis extrêmement heureux d'être là ce soir, d'être parmi vous et de vous voir nombreux. L'Institut français à Saint-Pétersbourg, ça fait 4 ans que je le dirige. Alors, je vais dire un petit mot un peu personnel pour commencer.
Добрый вечер, я буду говорить по-французски. Прежде всего, я чрезвычайно счастлив быть здесь сегодня вечером и видеть, что здесь полный зал. Это, конечно, очень приятно. Я возглавляю французский институт в Петербурге 4 года и скажу несколько личных слов.
En 4 ans, on a le temps de se rendre compte que Saint-Pétersbourg est une ville, une capitale culturelle extraordinaire, un lieu assez unique dans le monde.
За 4 года я понял, что Петербург – это действительно культурная столица и уникальный город.
Elle l'est par son patrimoine, indéniablement, par son histoire, donc par son patrimoine. Et à ce titre, évidemment, c'est une ville qui a un penchant conservateur.
прежде всего благодаря тому наследию, которое получил этот город, ну и благодаря этому же наследию в характере Петербурга очень значительные консервативные черты.
Et ce qui nous a fait plaisir aussi depuis ce temps passé ici, c'est de découvrir qu'il y avait énormément d'activisme et une scène musicale extrêmement vivante et contemporaine, une sorte d'écosystème musical à Saint-Pétersbourg.
И тем более приятно мне было за эти 4 года обнаружить, что в этом городе существует активная жизнь, что есть множество современных художников, которые связаны в некую экосистему.
Et je pense, j'emploie le terme écosystème parce que je crois que les différents acteurs, qu'ils soient de musique improvisée, de recherche musicale, qu'ils soient de plasticiens sonores, tissent des liens et se regroupent, y compris dans des événements comme celui-ci.
Я говорю экосистема, потому что разные художники и структуры, которые работают либо в области импровизационной музыки, либо в области исследований, либо работают как пластические художники, они объединяются на мероприятиях, как сегодня вечером.
C'est ce qu'on a appelé finalement un paysage sonore à Saint-Pétersbourg. Et l'année dernière, on a découvert avec ACOUSMONIUM, qu'on a soutenu dès le départ, une extraordinaire effervescence et une très belle occasion à la fois de découverte, mais aussi d'apprentissage.
И это я назвал звуковым пейзажем. И в прошлом году, благодаря ACOUSMONIUM, мы обнаружили, что это великолепный повод для обогащения каждого из нас и для новых открытий.
Alors, je voudrais remercier ceux qui étaient déjà là l'an dernier et qui reviennent. Je pense à Daniel Teruggi, bien sûr.
Прежде всего, я благодарю тех, кто уже приезжал в прошлом году и вернулся к нам. Это Даниэль Терuggi, конечно.
Et saluer donc les grandes figures de la musique acousmatique qui font le déplacement cette année à Saint-Pétersbourg, donc Francis Daumont, Gilles Racco notamment, bien entendu. Je n'oublie pas que c'est aussi le rassemblement donc, des musiciens, d'autres musiciens, des musiciens étrangers, d'Autriche, de Belgique, et bien entendu des musiciens russes.
И, конечно, для нас большая честь, что в этом году приехали пионеры и мэтры электроакустической музыки Франсис Дамон и Жиль Ракко. И с нами же здесь коллеги из Австрии и из Бельгии.
Et je voudrais remercier très, très profondément François Bonnet parce que on a eu un dialogue très fructueux pour mener à bien ce projet et rendre possible le fait que l'ACOUSMONIUM sonne ici.
И большое спасибо Франсуа Bonnet, потому что действительно благодаря нашим совместным усилиям получилось так, что проект состоялся.
Et je veux dire aussi un mot tout particulier évidemment pour Anton, Iakhontov, et aussi pour Anastasia, qui à deux font un travail extraordinaire et qui, à mon sens, font que cette nouvelle scène Alexandrinsky peut véritablement s'appeler nouvelle scène.
И особая благодарность, конечно, Антону Яхонтову и Насте, потому что именно благодаря их работе новая сцена Александринского театра может называться новой.
Donc merci au théâtre Alexandrinsky et merci particulièrement à vous.
Спасибо Александринскому театру и особое спасибо вам.
Voilà, je ne serai pas plus long. Vive la musique, qu'elle vous enchante les oreilles pendant ces 4 jours.
Не буду больше злоупотреблять вашим вниманием. Да здравствует музыка и музыкальных наслаждений вам в течение дней фестиваля.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Let's just give a quick overview of the program.
Very quickly. The idea is to present historical work born in France, birthplace of musique concrète. So, for example, tonight we will listen just after Daniel's presentation, the first ever studies of noise by Pierre Schaeffer. And then the idea is to, during this 4 days, to go back and forth with historical big figures and new composer and big figures here, Gilles Racco, Francis Domont, of course, and to show the diversity and the vitality of this music. It's not like an archival music, it's a music well alive, and the idea to bring the acousmonium here is also to make people believe that it's possible to build another acousmonium anywhere else. It's an idea, as you mentioned, that needs to be spread, and we hope that you find the system relevant and exciting.
Yeah, and apart from that, there's the Belgium part, and then there's a part from Austria, represented by Todor Todorov and Thomas Gorbach, accordingly. And then, of course, like what I call, I mean, it's of course all this music is intellectual, but there is a part which is just like talking and analyzing and presenting, which is like purely intellectual, and which will inform us of artist talks, which will happen in the media studio, where we usually use the media studio for the format of the octophonie, of the floating sound gallery. So this will come along. This will come together, like the artist talks and the octophonie sound presentations, and we have guests from Moscow, from Kazan, and then there is another program run by us, New Media Laboratory, where we research the new media. We don't call it school or university. We don't have any academia and diploma things. There is a black room where you can probably find, and then you can visit it in the break or before or after the concerts with sound installations and sound works of our participants. And then there is in the foyer, there's my work with my longtime collaborator, Oleg Makarov, Little Acousmonium, to relax from the normal one.
So maybe to explain the night, we start right now with Daniel. Absolutely. Just after Daniel, there will be the first listening of Étude de bruit, which is like 15 minutes. Then there will be an intermission, and then after there will be like 1 hour of music again. Historical, and not only historical.
Let's start.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be here, second time. I really enjoyed your city, your theater, the people last year when I came. I'm going to make a conference. A conference may be a boring thing. So I'll try not to make it so boring. And sorry for speaking only English. I'm now at this moment studying Greek. And I get very confused between Greek and Russian writing. No, I'm a composer, a retired person. I'm very happy at being so. And I will organize my conference in 3 parts. The first one is to introduce myself, then to talk about musique concrète. What is it? What are the concepts? Why did it come to light? And then show you examples of machines, systems, acousmoniums, and what musique concrète has brought to music after 70 years. So today we have been able, thanks to the Institut Français, to bring over the acousmonium of the GRM. It's a very ancient tool that has been modernized through time. There are 25 acousmoniums in the world. There are about 12 or 13 which are fixed acousmoniums, which are installed already in rooms with fixed positions for the loudspeakers. But then there are many as this one, which have different amounts of loudspeakers. And we'll try to understand also the question everybody asks sometimes is, do we need them all? So we'll try to get to that answer at the end. So I go back, I'll be there, but I'll be watching you. Don't fall asleep. So my name is Daniel Teruggi. So I'm a composer of mainly music made with technology. I was head of research at the INA, National Institut de l'Audiovisuel in France for 15 years, and director of the GRM until 2 years ago. Very happy to be there. I'm very happy to have all my ancient colleagues around me. And then I worked a lot in Europe, international archives, etc., etc. I'm a very complex person in terms of origins. I was born in Argentina, and these are my origins. None are from America, but mainly Teruggi. You may see it's an Italian name, and that's from my father's side, and then different mixtures. And I live in France since 1977. I show these two photos. On one, it's me. I like joking and playing around, but I can be a very serious person. So now don't be shocked. This is me in 1973. My first tape recorder, my first musical experiences. I was so proud of that machine. It cost a fortune in those days. This is my first discovering of computers. The brain between the potential brains. This is where I started learning what bits and bytes were. And I've worked a lot in research, sound representation, musical analysis, sound processing, preservation, and in 2016 I got a very important international medal from the SMPTE for my contributions to archival technology medal. So if you want to see me researching, here you have an image of a high concentration. So before continuing, I would like to make a, how do you say, a dedicacy, to dedicate this conference. So this conference is dedicated to my colleagues. I've been working for 38 years in GRM, and only one person, which was there the year I started, is still working, and not for long. The work I did was in conjunction with different colleagues over time. There was always a GRM spirit, where most of the people were eager to make the adventure advance. People change, the spirit remains. This is the important fact. The essence of the group is a collaboration on a common perspective. Now we start. Musique concrète, a soft revolution. It is often presented as a musical revolution where everything changed. In fact, it wasn't conceived initially as a revolution. It was originated by this strange person called Pierre Schaeffer, who was born in 1910 and died in 1995. Engineer, war-resistant, radio producer, composer, radio producer, and inventor of institutions. He started experimenting with radio creation since the early 40s. So here we see him in 1953 working within a radio environment. So he started experimenting around the musical uses of radio technology. What can we do with this new technology? It was really very appealing because we could finally record sounds, reproduce them when we wanted. And so his first idea was to enlarge the repertoire of sounds usable in music. His idea was at the beginning, music was mainly body, sounds, and voice. And then little by little, instruments developed, and then new instruments started being invented. So now with this new technology, we should be able to do something else. And then he saw the enormous potential of the microphone as a microscope of sounds. We can discover sounds that our ear has difficult to listen to with the microphones. And then he started using radio studio technologies to modify sounds, to change them. And his idea was to enlarge the palette of sounds used by the orchestra. He said, well, the orchestra has the instruments, performers have to perform their instrument. We could just, with these machines, add other sounds. We don't need instruments. We just press a button and we have the sound. However, when he started making his first experiences, several evidences and questions appeared. Musical sounds are not ordinary sounds. They are produced by specialized objects called instruments. What I'm saying with this is that when I say the word piano, I can imagine the instrument, and I can imagine the sound it produces. When I listen to a piano sound, there's no doubt it's a sound dedicated to music. When something falls down, it would not make a piano sound or a flute sound or a guitar sound. It will make a noise, for example. So what is happening? Why are there specialized sounds? And how do you speak of sound when you don't speak of instruments and notes? Of course, there's acoustics and very different ways of defining the sound behavior and components. But we don't speak a lot of sound in music. Are there other sounds usable in music? Can they be combined in order to produce musical sequences independently of any performing instrument? That's a great question. What are the limits of musical sounds? And then he also discovered that our perception is particularly concerned in identifying sound sources, which complicates their use in music. I'll explain this in a second. This led to several conclusions. Music is basically made by putting sounds together. However, not all sounds accept being assembled. Just think a second. Imagine the piano again. So I press my fingers on the different keys, and actually I'm putting sounds one after the other. And it's my mind that is capable of memorizing that sequence and saying, oh, that's a very nice melody. But can we put any sound one beside the other in order to make them sound of music? That was his great challenge. He developed a concept which was very useful at the beginning, the concept of sound objects. Instead of speaking of notes, of piano sounds and flute sounds, let's speak of objects. This is an object that has this kind of sound. This is an object that has this kind of behavior. And then this completes what I said a second ago. Sounds always refer to a source. When I listen to a dog barking, first of all, I identify the dog. Then I can say, okay, it's an E flat or it's a B minor or plus, whatever. But our mind is always trying to understand what the sound is. This is why the piano sounds, since they are dedicated to music, nobody questions what a piano sound is. Recording allows us to disconnect sound from its production. Recorded sounds can be manipulated and transformed to be used in music. New tools and concepts are needed to work in this new domain that he called musique concrète, almost finished. On October 5, 1948, took place the first concert of noises, where he presented his 5 noise studies that we will listen after my conference. So I think this is a great event from that point of view. It's the founding musical experience of musique concrète. From my point of view, it's totally personal, what I'm going to say. Schaeffer made a little mistake, called them noise studies, which immediately created a relation in many people's minds that musique concrète was mainly made of noises. Actually, it's made of sounds. Noises are, of course, sounds. This event started a large theoretical and experimental approach, which led to the creation of the institution, the GRMC in 1951, musical research group in musique concrète, and then the GRM, the musical research group in 1958. That's 61 years ago. These groups permitted collaborations between specialists of different disciplines to study the musical phenomena and the musical sound, composers, technicians, psychologists, analysts, etc. All his life, Schaeffer would be creating research and production institutions in order to explore the possibilities of the audiovisual domain. What is musique concrète? It's basically assembling sounds from any origin in sequences which make sense to the composer and the listener. Any sounds are usable. Initially, Schaeffer put some limitations, but then he let things go. The name musique concrète defines a procedure that is basically in opposition with the musique abstraite. In fact, in musique concrète, you compose through listening. Schaeffer said that when you write a musical score, it's an abstract musical conception. You write your music with your mind, and then you listen to it. It becomes concrete in the moment of the concert. Here, you have to listen permanently to sounds, to cut them, to shape them, to change them, and put them together in order to make the musical sequence. He initially restricted the use of sounds, but little by little, all the sound universe was potentially usable for music. Slowly, the idea of making music with new technology spread out all over the world, and studios and composers started experimenting with this kind of creation, giving new names to the result. Elektronische Musik in Germany, tape music in the States, electroacoustic music a little bit everywhere, but mainly in, let's say, Latin countries, live electronics in the States, anecdotal music in France, and acousmatic music, which was one of our great tendencies in GRM. What were the consequences? This approach questioned the fundamental element of music, sound, and led to totally new ways of composing, new technologies, new philosophical trends, and new ways of presenting music. The GRM worked deeply on the concept of acousmatic music. So today we'll have a quick overview of technology, ideas, and performance. So ideas, we have seen a lot of them. There are much more, but I won't get into detail. Technology. Machines are the main actors in the history of 20th century evolution. Their evolution and improvements are the consequence of collaborations between composers and technicians. So here is a little bit comical photo with Schaeffer, totally concentrated for the photo, looking at a machine he invented. This is one of the first machines that were conceived in order to modify sounds. You cannot use sounds freely. You have to have tools to shape them, to change them, to modify, to adapt one sound to the other. So this was the first of a series of machines that existed since the beginning. We identify 5 technological ages. The mechanical age, things that turn. Electronic period, where you have transistors and these kind of elements. Mainframe computing machines, which are huge systems. You will see a couple of them. Personal computers, the ones all of us have. And more recently, the handheld devices, iPads, phones, and tablets, whatever. These are a series of machines invented mainly during the 50s and the 60s. This is the one we saw before. We have a complex series of pulleys and wheels going around, so a tape would be put there, and depending on a keyboard, the tape would go faster and slower. It would permit the sounds to be listened at a higher pitch or at a lower pitch to transpose sounds in frequency. This is a view of the general studio of the 50s. It's very awkward when you compare it to today's studios and machines. For example, in the middle you have the mixing desk here, which is made mainly with buttons, when today we have much more efficient, even physical ways to control sound. This is an essay for a multi-track machine, so 3 synchronized tape recorders that could record and play at the same time. This was used in a couple of works. It didn't have much success. It was a machine that weighed about 500 kilos and was impossible to transport to the concert hall, so it was left in the studio. This is a machine for making loops. This is from 1960. So there's a tape that turns with a wheel, and then you have different reading heads that can reproduce at different times the sounds that are recorded there. And this is the great and maybe famous electronic studio of the GRM, which lasted from 1966 to 1992. I started working there. So it's an assembly of different kinds of machine of different origins. On the right side, you have a set of tape recorders, which were the main tools to record and play sounds. Then you have the mixing desk, and on top of that, there's a synthesizer. And then on top of that, there are a series of commercial machines that are bought in the market, like a Moog synthesizer and other machines of this kind. This is really one of the highest expressions of electronic technology, with synthesizer machines to transform filters, reverberations, and synthesizers. Here's a detail. And what is important to know is that the lower part, the mixing desk, and the synthesizer was totally built within the GRM premises. There was a technical team that would spend years building these machines. So this is the series of first machines which all contributed to one objective: inventing new sounds for new music. That was the big idea. Then we changed to computers. It was a totally different perspective. Composers could calculate with precision the parameters of sound. However, computers had, mainly at the beginning, a very important drawback, is that you didn't have any more in your hands the control of sounds. Here there were hundreds of buttons. You would be moving around, pushing the buttons, pushing the sliders, and composing was a very active way of working. Here you were sitting on a desk, typing instructions, and then waiting for the results to come. However, this has made huge advances since the beginnings. And here we have the first mainframe computer. I always see this as a hospital room. Everything is clean, in order. Nothing is not at its place. And these refrigerators here were the hard disks where you could put 10 megabytes of information inside. We thought it was wonderful. Then and this was the way you communicated with the machine. Answering questions, actually, more than writing instructions. The machine would ask you questions and you would introduce the answers, and then you would always get some kind of result, even if it wasn't very encouraging. Then in the 80s, we jumped to smaller computers and specialized devices for sound processing and transforming. This is a system which was finished in 1984 by this person called Jean-François Alluis, which was a mainframe computer, much smaller than the previous one, where you could control in real-time sound. That was the great change. You could move a mouse. We discovered mouses. And you could obtain results by moving the mouse on top of a pad. Then it was the death of mainframe machines, and we jumped to personal computers. And we started to develop programs for sound processing. Sound processing has been one of the strongest trends in our activity. It's taking an existing sound that you record and then transforming it, processing it. A little bit as a sculpture would change its sounds. So this is one of the first versions from 1994 to the most recent version of 2008, which maintains more or less the same look, but with much more possibilities and, of course, much more power than before. So this is the second period. And with this, we entered in a totally new era of sound transformation. And then we come to more recent things, tools for handheld devices and educational resources. These two things have been running together. On one side, you have new tools that are thought for young users, children, or from 8 to 20, but they can be used by professionals also. And then doing MOOCs, doing online resources for educational purposes, working with the educational ministry in order to give students and teachers ways to turn around. And finally, I would like to show you this. So on the left side, you have the synthesizer that was built in the 60s. And in the right side is the same synthesizer built a couple of years ago by somebody who's here, which is Philippe Dao. So he deconstructed the original synthesizer and reconstructed it finding the original components, making the design, and making himself. It's an electronic device that can permit to reproduce the sounds that were made 40 years ago in the other synthesizers. Then, in the domain of ideas, Schaeffer wrote a lot. He was a fruitful writer, and all his ideas are written. He was very effective, and it was a wonderful writing. We have managed over time to translate to English some of his works, like In Search of a Concrete Musique. I recommend this book because it, I think you know, can also find it online. You can understand the original story of how everything began. He has a journal of the musique concrète, and he explains day by day how he little by little developed his ideas and came to the musical results. And then on the right side, the Treatise on Musical Objects, which is a 600-page book published in 1966, which condenses all Schaeffer's idea about sound, about music, about perception, about technology. He also dedicated a large part of his activity to audiovisual domain. And here's a book that hasn't been published called Communication Machines, Power and Communication. It's a very interesting work written in the 60s also, highly in advance and anticipating what is happening today. In parallel to these ideas, the GRM has done seminars, musical studies, radio production, CDs, online resources, analysis tools, in order to, at the same time that composers can work and create new music, have thought tools to develop new ideas and new trends in musical thinking. Another set is different, more contemporary books, a book by François Bonnet, Les mots et les sons, I think it's in English, yes, it's translated to English. A book by François de Lalande, which was a long-time collaborator of the GRM, analyzing music, why and how. And then Michel Chion, who wrote a wonderful book. This one is free online, the Guide des objets sonores, that explains a great part of the concepts that Schaeffer uses in his musique concrète books. So performance in space, an ancient concern. New music, new performance situation. The acousmonium is a tool conceived by François Bell in 1974 for the performance of acousmatic music. This is a view of the concert hall, the French radio, where the GRM usually does its concerts. But everything began much earlier. This is from 1951. It's the first performance of one of Schaeffer's most important works that he composed with Pierre-Henry, called Symphonie pour un homme seul, and in which he said, we cannot go to a concert and listen music through a loudspeaker as if it were an orchestra. We have to do something on stage. So they developed this strange system, 1951. So, 1951, you were the audience. I am Schaeffer. There are 4 loudspeakers, one there, one there. You only see one there at the left. Then 2 at the rear, 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. Not at the angles, as you may imagine. And he is surrounded by coils, electromagnetic coils. And he has another coil in his hand. So he moves to the right, he moves to the left, he moves to the top, he moves to the bottom. And so he gives the impression that sound is moving in the space. He also gives the impression that somebody is controlling what is happening. Somebody is at the command, like in a boat, in a ship. You need a captain. So he's the captain, and you can understand he's the captain. The people that are in the back see there's a captain there controlling the machine. You can't see the captain, but you know the captain is there. This is very important. Music is a human interaction between somebody who proposes something and other people who listen. So it is necessary to create a loop of confidence, a loop of knowledge between those who present and those who listen. I'm going back there. This is the first acousmonium. The most important fact of this first acousmonium is that the name was given there to the system. In fact, they put together all the loudspeakers they had around, a bunch of different loudspeakers. Some were very bad quality, and they organized them in a kind of visual display, as you have them here in this room. So one of the great adventures of musique concrète is audience. Audience and audience. We're very happy that this room is full today. We hope it will be full until Sunday. These are concerts with 500, 600, 800 people in the French radio, but in different other places. And musique concrète has always generated an interest. I always used to say that what we do is on the limit of today and trying to look forward to what will be tomorrow in the musical domain. So we have audiences here. We have light settings, as you have here, that gives you a certain ambience. You feel more comfortable than if you put all the lights, which may be very disagreeable. And then, depending on the place, there are different configurations. And for example, here is a festival GRM organizes every year called Présence électronique, where there is a large hall for 800 people, where electronica composers or artists come to perform their music in junction with the GRM. And this is another room we used to have in which we presented some concerts. Now, maybe it's time for listening a couple of things. First of all, and this may sound a bit strange, I would like you to listen to a sound. Just to be sure we're talking of the same thing. If I find my... I go back to the front. Thank you. So, what was that? It's a recording of the street. If you have some experience, it's a recording of a street in Paris. Why do I recognize it's Paris? Because it's a particular noise or sound the buses do when they go through. And if you had been listening more at the beginning, you listen to my voice, I'm saying something to somebody, then there's the normal street sounds and birds, etc., etc. So this is the sound. What is a sound? If I have to ask what a sound is, I will get many answers. A sound is a vibration of the air, transmitted by the air, that affects our ears. There's a very simple definition of sound. Sound is what I hear. If I don't hear, there's no sound. For example, I am listening to something. You're not listening to it. There's no sound for you, there's only sound for me. The sound is not strong enough. So whatever comes to my ears and then to my mind is sound. In the same logical of a strange question, what is noise? That is noise. That is noise. That is noise. Maybe. When I'm trying to sleep, and my neighbor plays Rachmaninoff, he's making noise. So noise is what bothers me. It's a psychological concept. So it is true that some sounds don't convey any information. So they bother my perception. And I can't listen really clearly. I couldn't listen really clearly what was happening there. Now, the last question is, what is music? Is that music? Why not yet? What is missing? When I was a young boy studying by heart the books of theory, the first sentence was, music is the art of combining sounds. The art of combining sounds. In this, many years afterwards, I understood that they didn't mean the art in the concept, in the idea of an artist. It's more than an artisan. Somebody that knows how to put sounds together, which is what we do very well. Now, why could this be or not be music? So tomorrow, I will be playing my music. Tomorrow morning, I go to Nevsky Prospekt or Ostrovsky Square, which is a quiet place. I put 2 microphones, I record 20 minutes, and in the evening I come and present, Daniel Teruggi presents Ostrovsky 1. And you listen to the 20 minutes of my recording. Is it music or not? Yes, because I decided it was music. You may like it or not. You may leave after 10 minutes saying, oh, Teruggi, how boring. I hope you don't think that tomorrow. How boring, Teruggi, how can we? But it is a possibility of music. The same thing in art, in painting. How many times have we seen a painting and said, oh, I can do this. I can paint this. I could do it better than the guy even. But that's not the concept. The concept is what you decide is going to be music. This is a totally modern concept that started in the 60s, more or less, when all of a sudden there was a great freedom in creation. So you listen to your first sound. It wasn't a music. Now I'll make you listen to the second sound, which may be music. I'm going to be back, so leave the light on. So, isn't this beautiful? I mean, it's much nicer than what we first heard. And exactly the same situation. A person with two microphones moving around. But well, he's looking for other sounds. It's the middle of the night of a summer day, summer night, in southern France. So he's listening to all the animals there that are awake at night. And then he's talking. He's making comments about what he's listening. So immediately there is an exchange that is produced between you, who try to find out what are these sounds, what am I listening to? As somebody talking, he may be saying something very important. And then you get little by little in this situation. I must tell you, and that I'm almost finished, a little story about Russian. Last year, we took a boat cruise with my wife, and we asked, is there an explanation in English? And the guy said, of course, yes, it's in English. So we got in the boat, and everything was in Russian. So then we complained, then we got another tour, etc., etc. But if we went for a second tour, it was because when we were listening to the Russian, speaking by a very nice voice, and then all of a sudden he would say, Pushkin. And then he would start saying words. And we were so emotional. This must be poems by Pushkin. He's saying so beautiful sounds. Then when we went back and listened to it in English, there was no poetry at all. So your mind is capable of inventing things. So just to, before my end, a last sound where I'm actually inventing new sounds, new situations. So now you know all you need to know. You're ready for the next music. So, musique concrète gave birth to the GRM. Do we still need it? GRM, I mean, not musique concrète. Pierre Schaeffer used to say that the GRM was an impossible but necessary institution. So it has lived already 61 years. I'm no more there. Very happy to see it still living, and I hope it will live for many, many years. Thank you very much. I have another image. Okay, now you cut the projector. There, that's me now.